Love it.
Spaces, things exist. In the lines that form the network of your mind. Behind the retinas of imagination are the particles and peripherals that made you who you are. Turn off, shut your eyes, and listen to dispatches from outside the box.
Welcome back to the shadowy underbelly, the umbra of the geek unknown. Tonight on Dispatches, we're discussing the lasting effects of prickled skin, chilled spines, and paranoia caused by the things you catch in the corners of your eyes. Why does this torment of scary stories have us begging for more? Is it our nature to expose ourselves to the terrors of the unknown, or are we just glutton for punishment? I'm independent artist and mad scribbler C Michael Lanning, and I'll be your host as we explore our own frightful fascinations. And as always, I'm joined by my partners in grit and grime, Spooky Stone Abdullah and Rickety Randy Zimmerman. Get me your
thanks,
guys.
Rickety. Okay.
Rickety. Yeah,
Rickety.
That's where we're going. Okay, but just for tonight, I like it.
Spooky. It's spooky.
It's spooky. All right, it's cool. Maybe I'm I don't know, like the Straw Man or the Tin Man Stone, or I don't know. Anyway, I'm just going to introduce myself before I make this a further disaster. I'm Stone Abdullah, sci-fi novelist behind Journey of the Shadow. Used to work in research and academia for a while. Used to be that climate scientist. And now I find myself hanging around with these weirdos, the ones at the top and bottom of your screen. And it's a lot of fun. And just to make one small comment, I thought I saw a pair of scrotum in that intro video. I was just like, no, that's not what that was. That
must have been your imagination.
That must have been my frightening,
a Rorschach, huh? There, huh?
Yeah. So
you were thinking of things particularly scary, and that imagery just popped into your head.
I was just like, man, that one time in band camp, huge scrotum. Anyway, the Grandmaster.
Are we TVMA DLSV? We are, aren't we? Okay.
I hope so.
We better be.
Hey, everybody, I'm Randy Zimmerman. That's sometimes known as Grandmaster Zim. And I've been in this business for a long, long time, doing alternative and independent comics for many, 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 many decades. I've done just about everything in this business that you can imagine, except for work for the Big Two. So
the Big Two.
Other than that, I've done it all. Ran conventions, retailed for over a decade. Did my own newspaper here locally for over a decade. Here, speaking of scary stories, I'm just 2 miles south of the safe water line of Flint, Michigan.
That's pretty scary.
Living in Burton. It's been scary for a couple of years. Yeah.
So living in fear,
Especially since our wonderful governor has refused to give us a 27-cent tax relief on our gas, but she's giving Flint a state park. So
Yeah,
that's costing us millions over top of where a previous huge Chevy plant used to be, right over the beautiful and wonderful Flint River.
She's not going to add a waterfall, is she?
No, but
or a drinking fountain.
The banks have already been rescued by the Army Corps of Engineers back in the 70s and 80s, I believe. They went through and concreted up the banks of both sides of the river for toxic purposes in order to contain. Yeah, because the plant that they're making the park over was called Chevy in the Hole. That's literally what the plant was known as around here. And the reason for that is that it was built right across the Flint River, so they had a place to dump their paint and other chemicals.
Because we need those in the environment.
But that was long before we discovered apparently that there was an environment back in the 20s and 30s. And then we woke up when the water and the fish started looking weird, and we cleaned it up and yeah. The water crisis was actually filtered water from the Flint River. That, like I said, that was kind of a scary story. So.
That's a scary story. That's a great intro. I like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Probably too long, but it's okay.
Who we have with us tonight, also sharing their scary stories with us, is let's say Mitch Rogers. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hey, my name is Mitch Rogers. I am the creator, writer, artist, publisher of The Boger, which is a horror comic series and character. I've been doing indie comics now for 14 years. And I have just recently gotten into the whole crowdfunding thing. I can't believe I spent this long not doing it. So I better jump in now.
Yeah, you hopped in at a good time, my friend.
Yeah. Shawn, go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
Yeah, hi. I'm Shawn Hainsworth. I'm the newbie here. I have just sort of launched an indie comic publishing company. I got 3 titles. One is sci-fi, and the one we're working on right now is horror, about a vampire at Woodstock, sort of a comedy of horrors. Before that, I worked in film. I did a lot of documentary back in the 90s and did a lot of screenwriting at one point, but I am much happier making comics. This is a great world and I'm happy to be in it. So having a lot of fun.
Awesome. Awesome.
Having fun. There we go, folks.
There it is. And what our show is about exploring those things that kind of inspired us to do what we're doing, to inspire us to do screenwriting, to inspire us to do comics, whatever we're doing. And one of those things is scary stories. Not only do you have books, I remember when I was younger, you had like the Goosebumps craze, Stone. You should probably remember that one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
They had all the Goosebumps books.
And the R.L. Stein books. Fear Street. Yeah. That series. Yeah.
Fear Street.
So we've always we've always had this fascination to look into what's the unknown, to the scary stuff, and really, why do we want to be scared? That's what I'm wondering. Shawn, do you like to be scared? What?
Yeah, it's funny. So I hate jump scares. I really hate the manipulation of a jump scare, and I find that very unpleasant. So I never watch the horror movies of hello. Is anyone here? It just drives me nuts. Just waiting for it.
It's coming.
But I do like the horror that gets under your skin. I was drawn to the remake of The Fly when it came out. Kind of early body horror. I'm drawn to stuff that like the original Alien, stuff where it's not a jump scare, but there's just something that really kind of tugs at you underneath, like pulls the rug out from under your sense of security. I actually heard a theory at one point that part of the reasons we're drawn to scary stories and horror is that, and who knows how valid this is, but it sounds good to me, is that, we were prey animal, prey at one point, prey to big game, and we had to sleep, aware of being hunted by lions and large creatures, and that's kind of buried in our psyche, this idea that we're vulnerable and prey. I don't know what that's worth, but I heard that idea expressed once.
I mean, there has to be something. I mean, to have a feeling like being scared something that you hunt for, that you go out and you look for. There's got to be something to it. What about you, Mitch? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love being scared, but as far as like the what, like why are we scared? I think it's more of an adrenaline thing, that kind of. Like, because people, always go into these like, oh, it's us confronting death and stuff. Me, I just like, for myself, just like creepy things. I like cemeteries, monsters, and I think the whole process of being scared, almost like I said, like a more, the same reason people do roller coasters. Just that kind of rush of adrenaline.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Do you get the adrenaline rush from the jump scare? Are you the kind of person that likes that?
No, I'm with you. I cannot stand jump. I mean, I can
no jump scares.
I can do one or two in a movie, just one or two, but that's my limit, because I've seen movies where every 10 minutes there's a jump scare.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
to me, that's more stressful than it is scary.
And Mitch, I was going to say, if you're you love being scared, how come it took you this long to get back into crowdfunding?
I'm not going to get into it here, but there was a lot of the same reasons why it took me about 3 years to get back into doing comics.
Gotcha.
Yeah, more of a. Yeah, it wasn't just crowdfunding. It was a lot of stuff going on at certain times.
Well, we've had the discussion on this and other shows before, but once you start doing comics, especially once you hold your first one in your hand, you kind of get that vibe. You decide right there and then if this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because it's such a cool feeling to feel that, to get that comic in your hand. It gets into your bloodstream. And you can get away from it for a few years, like what you did, but eventually you're going to come back and you're going to keep doing more of it, because it's such a great art form. It's such a independent and alternative art form where you can say so much.
Oh yeah, it pulls at you if you're not doing it consistently. I will say that.
Exactly. It's in your blood, buddy. It's hopeless. Just give it up. Give it up and keep doing it. Hopeless.
Keep doing it.
So Stone, you're a sci-fi writer. Do you like being scared? Do you find any interest in the horror?
I mean, yeah.
Not necessarily horror. Maybe horror is not a good. I'm just talking about so creepy, scary.
Yeah, creepy stuff, man. I was interested. And I'll tell you this. Now, I agree first and foremost with Shawn and Mitch about those jump scares. It's not like the horror that was written like the 70s and the 80s. You know what I mean? Where it was written to get into your head, like a psychological like fear. You're stoking that that intuition. You know what I mean? It's like, is there something? Is there something? Did I just see something? You know what I mean? That sort of thing that you're invoking.
Right.
I love that visceral. Sort of fear. Absolutely. Yeah. They came out with a lot of the gore stuff, but it's just gore. It's not really horror. It's something to horrify you, because
that's kind of what it's like.
Gratuitous violence. You know what I'm saying? But it's not necessarily scary in the sense that there is an impending fear. There's a cloud that is somewhere. And the point of fear is that you can't identify where the source of the threat is coming from, right? And you're not sure what's going to happen. The point of fear is that you don't know. You have to capitalize on that uncertainty. And so, at a young age, seeing there was a movie came out in like 88, 89. It was like A Haunting or The Haunting. And, back then the visual effects, they were doing what they could. It was low budget. Practical the movie, practical effects, Randy. Yeah. And the whole premise behind this movie, I think it was like an hour 45. You had a family. They bought a house. They bought a house in Pennsylvania. And everything was cool until one of the kids saw this shapeless black something that kept popping up, and they didn't water you down with the appearance of this entity. And when it popped up, it would be in one of the most innocuous moments in the middle of the day while you're eating breakfast. I'm like, that's freaking horrifying. You know what I mean? Because now you're thinking, could that happen in my house or my sister's house?
Right.
That sort of thing. That freaks you. That freaks you out.
Stuff out the corner of your eyes. You're like, is that it?
It's like, oh, that's just the cat. Could you stop doing that? Cat's going to keep doing it because cats are cats. So I love the concept, the element behind how horror is evoked in that medium. And so as a sci-fi novelist, I was just like, you can incorporate that within your villains. It's not always a show and tell. It's you give them a little taste of it here, and then you make them the tension. You make them wait for it. And you're not sure if that moment's going to arise. It's not a jump scare or whatever, but you're not sure if that apex is going to arise within the story. So I wholeheartedly find horror in that sense really an effective form of communicating, at least when you're building like a villain or antagonist or something like that. Or if you're expressing someone's fears, you know what I mean? Because horror could be something that you've been trying to avoid. You know what I mean? And now you encounter the situation and you're scared to death of it. You're not sure how to approach it. That's another form of horror. Right. So, man, growing up and reading those Goosebumps, but primarily R.L. Stine's Fear Street, I would say. Reading that stuff, and I was like, man, this is great stuff.
That was about...
Maybe I read it too young.
Yeah, I was 18, 19 when you every month they had like a new Goosebumps out, and it's like, golly.
Yeah.
It was a huge thing.
It was a huge thing. The whole neighborhood,
Yeah, and it just goes to show you, because we just came out, that was the late 90s. You had your 80s, which did have, not only did you have your Freddy Kruegers and your Jasons, but you had the movies like you were talking about. You had your Poltergeist.
That's right.
You had your, all that stuff that just kind of out the corner of your eye kind of thing.
Right. I love those movies more so than, shout out to Freddy Krueger. Sure. I liked it for what it was, but man, like Poltergeist, I said, that's
the first one kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway, Randy, I know you've been a fan of some scary stuff before, huh?
Yeah, I've had my moments. Yeah. The thing that I was looking at is behind Mitch there. He's got a couple of reproduction covers of the Vault of Horror from EC Comics. That's as classic of the genre as you can get. There's so many people that do horror movies and just work in the horror industry now that are my age or older that literally cut their teeth on those old EC comics. There was a time where I wish we had done there's a comic book defense fund. I always wanted to do a comic book offense fund where you had Spielberg or Stephen King come up and talk about how great these old EC books were and how they read them with a flashlight under the sheets and scared themselves to death with 8 pages of great sequential art, Yeah. Other than that, for me, I burned through horror a lot during the Betamax phase when I was married with my first wife. We would rent movies, like 3 movies a night, and sit and watch the cheesiest or typical B movie horror film of the time, whatever came out on Betamax that week, we would end up watching. And that, for me, horror has to be a really high quality for me to really enjoy it. Other than that, it's all kind of, The first Saw I thought was pretty good, but the other ones were just kind of gore for gore.
Yeah, they ran
that kind of thing.
Yeah, they ran it exactly.
Yeah, American Horror Story on Fox, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, but, that's a great one.
When you get to that horror, there's a lot of different levels of horror, and for me, the one that I enjoy the most is the one that gives you what can only be described as that ooky feeling. That unsettledness that's constantly riding through. First Poltergeist is a great example of that. But the original movie Freaks, if you ever get a chance to see that, that is an ooky, a great film that is a lot of people don't that a lot of people take for granted or have never heard of or have seen. Yeah. Back during the days of James Whale's Frankenstein and that kind of Bride of Frankenstein, that kind of work, that if you get a chance to see it, definitely sit and watch it. Some of the old Hitchcock movies were especially really good for that kind of unsettledness.
He didn't need that, especially birds. They didn't even have to be anything unnatural.
Yeah,
they were just
natural as that everywhere.
But it was so well. It was so well done.
He is such a master of filmmaking. I love the shot where she looks out the window and the one bird lands in the tree, and then and it's just so beautifully done where it moves from an everyday occurrence to is something going on to wait a minute, there's too many birds. I just love that sequence, just the way it's edited. And I think there's a great Bernard Herrmann soundtrack going on there as well.
Yeah.
But just the way he builds that tension with birds.
Yeah.
With
For me, it's the last couple scenes in the movie when they leave the house and try to get to the car.
Yeah.
And all of the birds are sitting there all over, and at any minute they could come out. Yeah.
Yeah, she
Man.
just been
Such
attacked in the
tension
room.
and such horror that it's really unmatchable. Very classic material. Well, everything by Hitchcock is great to sit and watch.
Let's be honest with you.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, he knew how to maximize the tension out of every moment. And it's not he didn't speed anything up. There's where I was watching North by Northwest with my son, and in the very end, when Cary Grant comes out and there's a bad guy behind the rock, there's about a 2-second pause before he actually jumps.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was like, "Why didn't he just jump on him?" But it just every moment is heightened. Every that intake of air where he's gonna jump on Cary Grant, he drags it out just a little bit longer.
Oh yeah,
the perfect amount. It's just
perfect amount.
Perfect. A lot of people should learn from him.
Well, he was definitely a master of cinematography, especially. I remember Rope, just because Rope is so seamless. Everything moves. The way he does his pans, it all moves into the next thing. So.
Well, it was a stage play to start with. But he did it as a single camera.
As a single camera
movement. And whenever he changed reels, he'd always pull behind somebody's back. You'd get a solid black screen for just a second, or even a split second as the camera moved across where he was actually switching reels on the camera.
Right.
Just again, beautifully done.
And it's stuff that stays with you.
He was at that point too, where he was constantly challenging himself, and he wasn't afraid to test boundaries and to test himself to see if he can get away with different things. So, like I said, everything from Hitchcock's worth sitting and watching.
It's a masterpiece. Everything.
Yeah, what's interesting too is he made so many movies, the 12 British films. Like he developed his craft over time. You're talking about golden age. It didn't come out of nowhere. It took a lot of films for him to get to that point where he really acquired his craft. It's really, those early films are good. The early English films, but
watchable.
You can see them. You can see him working out a lot of stuff, but he put his time in and he acquired his craft like slowly.
Yeah.
Well, he learned what to stay. He learned
what to stay with you.
So, and that was the thing. As long as you walked out of there with something staying with you, then he got you. He got you.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So then that's what makes a good scary story. Shawn, is there something that has stayed with you? A scary story that comes up in your mind every once in a while that continues to maybe haunt you?
Was that to me?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I can't think of something personal that's recurring for me. I think I have, sort of like, you ever wake up after a dream and you feel unsettled and you feel like that it both unsettled and that there's something familiar, like you're having this dream that you've had before, but you can't quite put your finger on it. And yet you feel unsettled in some way that's
out of place.
Right.
Yeah, I think it happens more for me in my dreams than I guess I've been fortunate in my life to not have major tragedies so far that haunt me. So,
it doesn't necessarily have to be personal. I mean, like just a story, like a scary story that you've heard, or something that kind of resonates with you, anything like that. I mean, it doesn't have to be a personal incident, and it could just been a story you heard or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably for me, just because I'm a child of the movies, it's the scary movies that really stay with me, and some of those moments. Talking about horror and science fiction, the original Thing from Another World, Howard Hawks film. Just there are moments in that film. There are moments in a lot of scary movies that really stay with me, and they're like old friends when you see them again, and I'll think about them every now and then. But that I would say a lot of the language in my head is movies, because I didn't read. I was not the kid reading comic books under the cover with the flashlight. I should have been, but nobody introduced me to comic books, so I was.
You're here now.
I was the movie geek.
Yeah, that's what.
Well, the code authority was probably in play by the time you were able to read anyway. So and the majority of the really good horror stuff was
it's
done.
kind of watered down.
It was kind of
Yeah, there you go, Mitch. Yeah.
The Ninja Geeko says that happens when he sleeps with a patch on. So
is that a pirate patch or you mean
a nicotine patch maybe, or a drug patch?
That's how I'm assuming it's a nicotine patch. But
okay. All right.
Could be a pirate patch.
Could be. Maybe he's a pirate. We're doing fine. Thanks for joining us.
Great.
On the podcast.
Yeah.
Mitch, is there now? Obviously, you've had some experience reading horror stories, reading scary stories. Is there one story that stands out to you that still haunts you to this day?
Not really one story, but one I guess type of story or classification of story, which was speaking of scary stories to tell in the dark from earlier. A few of those were, like where someone's alone in their house and they can hear something off in the distance.
Yeah.
And then it starts to get closer and closer. And, and the character eventually finds out that's coming for them. Like one of the ones that kind of pops out into my head is the big toe. I don't know if y'all remember that one from Scary Stories.
Yes.
Yeah, where the monster or corpse or whoever it is like, I'm in the hallway, I'm coming to get you. And then it's like, I'm on the first step. It's just that, where you're alone by yourself in your home. And
which is supposed to be your sanctuary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
And here's something not only trespassing, but literally, literally telling you that I'm coming for you. This is it. That kind of story always would stick with me.
Yeah, I think there's one in there also, like the guy's running. He feels something behind him coming at him or whatever, and he just starts moving and starts running, and then he feels a tap on his shoulder, and it's like this big monster behind him. And I think all it says is, "I think you dropped your hat."
Yeah, that was in, I believe, the third book. I believe.
Yeah, I can't even keep up with them. They're all mixed in.
Mixed together. Yeah.
Yeah. In a little bit, I want to pull up some of those images and take a look at that because a lot of those images are what kind of convey that horror, not just the stories. Because, like you said, a big toe. I always wondered about that. It's like, who's going to take a big toe? Because they took. In case you don't know the story, he took a big toe he found outside. I think I'm not sure if he took it from the corpse or
no. It was
I've heard it a couple times.
Like sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
And he reaches for it, and it's not
you
coming up. Yeah, like
as you do.
Yeah. And eventually he tugs at it, and he hears like a faint or something. And he takes the toe home, and like you do, his mom's like, "I'm going to make soup out of this."
Make soup out of a toe.
Who doesn't?
There's no
mom. Who doesn't? Yeah, you know what I mean. Of course, my mom did it. God rest his soul. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
We always got fresh toes. We never got the
Yeah. You go down to your local market, and there's a whole aisle of toes. You know what I'm saying? It's great. Everybody.
Like
not anymore. There's a supply shortage.
Yeah,
that's right. And and
prices have skyrocketed on those toes.
Those shelves are pretty bare unless they're
bare.
Yeah, charging high.
Yeah.
But that's the dream logic, right? Of course, you don't question why you tug on the toe or why you make soup out of the toe. You just do, right? It's that dream logic.
And the thing about these are they were stories that were brought from legends and stories that have been told over consistently folklore and what have you. So, but drinking and eating someone's bones.
Wow. Yeah, for anybody out there listening, if you ever need anything to listen to, get up on old radio programs and search out "Lights Out" by Arch Obler.
Mm-hmm.
Because even Bill Cosby had a great routine about him listening to a story from Lights Out when he was a kid about a giant, about a chicken heart that ends up growing with the more people it absorbs until it eats New York City.
Oh my gosh.
Chicken heart.
Do they have like you can
that got him on the.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And back then, when you had radio, that they called it the movie
Theater of the Mind.
Theater of the Mind.
Theater of the Mind.
And it scared a lot of kids back then. But those old Arch Obler Lights Out are well worth listening to. That some of them are incredibly ooky as well. Very
Didn't
good,
Lights
very
Out
unsettling.
have that one called The Dark about like the mist or the gas that turns people inside out?
I'm
Wasn't
pretty
that
sure
with
it
Lights
did.
Out?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
The other one that I really remember is about a guy who grew large, hungry worms in his backyard
Ooh.
and would
Ooh, I hadn't heard
sacrifice
that one.
people to him. And you get this sound effect.
That's just.
Oh, that's
disturbing.
enough right
That's-
there.
That was
That's
especially
enough.
crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
job, the sound effects expert for those old radio shows. That must have
Oh,
been so much fun.
Could you
As
imagine?
they showed another one that affected me when I was a kid was the War of the Worlds, H.G. Wells'
Yeah.
War of the Worlds radio
Yes.
broadcast.
H.G. Wells.
You still can't listen to that to this day, or I can at least, without having a little shiver going up your spine.
That's
Right
correct.
as the reporter ends up watching the black smoke coming right across at him, and he chokes, and the microphone drops on the floor, and somebody out there gives a radio signal call asking if there's anybody on the air.
Mm.
You know, it's just such
Chilling.
a classically done, very chilling episode.
And you know, they tried to do that with television broadcasts and everything. They tried to recreate that, and it just
That's a sort of emotion.
And they did a made for TV movie about that radio broadcast, and they showed the sound effect of the cylinder opening where the Martians came down in cylinders. The cylinder opening, they actually strung a mic out to the John and had them opening a peanut butter jar in the middle of the toilet in order to get the sound effect right.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's ingenious.
Inventive.
See, now
yeah.
I want to try it. Yeah,
right.
Now I want to try it.
I don't think it
This
works
might-
with Jif anymore, though, right?
It doesn't. Oh,
Probably
well,
not with a plastic lid. No.
Not with the plastic.
Yeah, not
you
with
know.
plastic.
Back
Yeah.
then they were glass
I
jars
thought
with
about
metal
it,
lids
I
and
thought,
got
maybe
that
it's not gonna work.
sound on it. Yeah.
Yeah, we need the old school.
Yeah,
Sounds
nowadays
awesome.
just
Agreed.
do a pickle jar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that too.
that's
That'll
right.
work. Yep.
That'll
Pickle
work.
jar will work.
That's it. And listen, if you're listening, I want to know if you do it. Leave it in the comments. I want to see. If it works out.
That's a great another one of those great old broadcasts you can find all over the net. You just have to search for it.
Yeah, it's the
All that stuff's archived anymore. The lights out material. It's some great horror. Inner Sanctum. If you've never listened to an Inner Sanctum, it starts with a squeaking door with a host very similar to the old hosts on the EC comics, who comes out and tells a few jokes, and then you get a scary story, and he ends it with a bad pun or a bad joke, and then the door closes again. You hear this thump
that's
at
great.
the end of the program. Just phenomenal
That's
stuff.
great.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, there is
Very
something out there
inventive.
called the Internet Radio Database or something where all
Yeah.
the radio
Hmm.
programs from the 30s are, because they're all public domain.
Just do a search for OTR. That's it.
OTR,
Old time radio.
radio. That's what
Yep.
it is. Yeah, it's great
old
stuff.
time radio.
Yeah.
Well worth listening to.
Nice.
I love it.
Stone, do you have something? Kind of,
Like something that stuck with me, throughout the years. Man, what didn't stick? You know what I'm saying? Like one of those I mentioned earlier, that stuck with me because I forgot to mention saw it too young.
You never remembered the stuff.
Yeah, that
As
the
a movie.
stuff.
The stuff.
Larry
Anyway.
Cohen.
Yeah, I think I saw that one too young as well. But now I had to go back and
Oh no! If you'd have seen it too young, it would have stuck with you. Believe me. People blowing up with white pus all anyway.
Oh yeah. That was I worked really hard to put that out of my. Thank you, Randy, for bringing that back up.
You're
So
welcome.
that's
there
one.
you go.
That's
There you
one,
go.
Mike. Okay, that's two because I mentioned a haunting and then the stuff and then the thing. That was when was that release, guys? 80s.
The
John
John
Carpenter.
Carpenter's.
John
Carpenter's the
Yeah,
thing.
the Carpenter is like 81, 82. That's an unbelievably great movie.
It's just
And it
my
still
God.
holds up.
It does.
With the practical effects, it's just amazing to sit and every time if it comes on or if I see it's available for streaming, I call it up just to watch it because the practical effects on there are so good still.
They're
Yeah.
brilliantly
Just great.
done.
Yeah.
And it's
there's
so
so
the
well done.
tension is so great because you
Yeah.
have no idea who the thing is, and that's
Yep.
exactly.
I think that's it, the unknown, right? I mean, and you combine that with the incredible special effects, like the head with the sprouts, the spider legs, and stuff. And
right.
Yeah.
it's that combination of incredible tension through not knowing, and then these crazy special effects. I love that movie.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not knowing, and then all of a sudden knowing. That's
Right.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, you're like,
And one of the best things about that movie is it solves the problem of escapism. The characters
Yes.
literally cannot escape because
Yeah.
they'll freeze to death.
Yep.
And it's
Correct.
miles and miles of nothing. So they literally cannot do anything but stay there and deal with the thing.
The thing, it's like claustrophobia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel so isolated. You know what I mean? But then you have this threat that you can't identify. And it's just like Shawn was saying, it's a beautiful construct. It's beautifully written, beautifully executed. And that's one of the most tantamount things that stuck with me. I was just like, if I ever find myself in Antarctica or wherever where it's really cold and there's like no civilization, I'm going to remember this. I'm going to mention it to the whole crew. Because like I said, a long time ago when I was doing research and then, with our ice physics group back in the day, they're like, oh, we're going to do a trip down to Antarctica. I was just like, are you sure? We have literature out there about that. But no, I declined the trip based upon that. I said, no, I'll just do the ice physics on the supercomputers. We're fine. Are you sure, Stone? Yeah, I'm fine. Good. So, yeah, to answer your question, C Michael, that impacted me even when I was in the middle of doing my research, because I was just like, I don't want to take that risk. Because I said, we're drilling ice cores. We're not sure if there's other life down there that survives in those temperatures, et cetera, spare you the science. So I was like, I would just rather sit here with a computer and, do some satellite estimations and be like, boom, here you go. Here's a paper for you. I'm not hopping on that plane. No, sir. They couldn't pay me. They couldn't pay me.
Also, how many like horror and science fiction stories start off with some monster from the Arctic or Antarctic was unfrozen?
Right.
Right.
The giant mantis.
The blob.
The blob. Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
If it didn't, I think the blob come down from space, but
Yeah,
they ended up
came down
putting
in
it in
an asteroid.
Antarctica.
Yeah,
But that was
meteorite.
okay. That's right.
Yeah, they stuck it in Antarctica when they were done, though.
When they were done. Yeah.
Yeah,
They
because
froze
nothing
it and flew it out there, so it won't move.
Right.
Nothing will
again.
ever go wrong with that. No.
Nothing. No, Mitch. Absolutely nothing. Are
The
you
blob too goes wrong with that.
Yeah.
kidding? It does. So I hope that answers your question, Mike. It does. The thing top.
And again, you go back and look at that Steve McQueen original blob. Nothing like the practical effects of chocolate Jello pudding being shoved through a grating to really freak you out.
You could feel that. You could feel it. It's like it's something that just
It just creeped me the freak out. I was just like, what in God's name is this? You know what I'm saying? But I had to keep watching because I had to know what was going to happen. I was scared out of my mind. Like I said, probably watch it to you. But I wanted to know what happened. Yeah. But it was so well executed, with such simple and inventive, you know what I mean? Visual effects is stuff that you probably find in your own pantry or yada, yada, yada. But the execution and what it evoked, it paid off. And like Randy was saying, this stuff stands the test of time. You know what I mean? We got CG, we got, multi-million-dollar budgets for some of the stuff. You compare it from the Masters, I would say. And the Masters is still comparatively better.
Sugar.
You know what I'm saying?
Hope you're doing well.
What's up? Hail, sugar.
The one where the blob chases them around the grocery store.
The grocery store,
because the blob is moving and rolling, and it's the kind of thing where it could instantly look really cheesy, and it doesn't. Right. And I don't know if it's explanation whether they I don't know how they did it. Those guys were absolute masters. I mean, it's easy to look back and say, oh, the special effects weren't that great, but with what they were working with and what they came up with.
And the budget, the budget they were working in too.
That's easy, but rolling around the supermarket aisles, that's hard. That's a great.
That's what we were talking about with American Werewolf in London. Last week.
That's right.
What you consider the best, but golly, man, and I do.
Boy.
I think that's fantastic.
That was the genius of Rick Baker too, the effects guy on that. He was just, just phenomenal.
Just in time.
We made it before the end of the stream. Yeah.
Wait.
So the sense of humor in that movie is fantastic.
Yeah. That too.
It's been a while. I have to go back and watch it. I remember
but again, John Landis, he had just come off of Kentucky Fried Movie. I think.
Exactly.
Before that,
John Landis.
Also a classic, kids. Look it up. It's worth your time.
And apparently, American Werewolf was like a passion project for him too.
Yeah.
Depending on your age.
Depending on your age.
Of course, Kentucky Fried under 18.
I'm having a realistic moment here of horror. My daughter gets the night terrors a little bit, and my 12-year-old daughter, and she's down here unable to sleep. So I'm going to take her back up to bed, and I'm going to step away from the computer for a few minutes here. So my apologies, but this is the real life horror story of being a parent.
Sure.
Back soon.
It's all part of the transparency, Shawn. Works. It's all good.
Good. I'll be right back.
Good, my friend.
All right.
Okay, my friend. That's
there he
awesome.
goes, disappearing into his screen.
Oh,
That's
into
horrific
screen.
right there. That was great.
How did he do it?
How did he do that? Just the screen ate him, ladies and gentlemen.
It was the Martians. The Martians came and absorbed
When he
him.
comes back, that's going to be wild too.
I know.
Just like the Vision zapping through a wall.
Yes.
Look at
Look at that gentleman in the middle setup.
Even has a fancy purple light.
Yeah, it's just,
So yeah,
don't worry about any of this.
That's
guys.
one of those
just
rare
even Luke
occasions
Stone's
that's
one.
not actually bisexual lighting.
Right.
It's actually Stone's love of the color purple.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
It's
welcome.
just,
No, it's a prerequisite. If your name has Stone in it, you have to have a purple background.
It
Look
just
at Luke Stone.
reminds him of his younger strip club days. That's all.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I was a DJ at a strip club, and I was just like, I remember those ladies just spinning around with the pasties. I was like, you know what? I need to bring that back home.
We've got a
There you go.
horrific video we could show for that, but we won't.
We do, but that's for tomorrow.
We won't. We
won't
show
do
that.
I got a quote here. Let's see what y'all think about this.
Let's
the
go,
great
Mike.
lure,
It is.
the great lure of horror fiction comes from a combination of awe and curiosity about what is unnatural and repulsive.
And repulsive. It's very good. I like that.
It's interesting to throw that repulsive in there. Yeah, unnatural is one thing. But it's like that train wreck. You pass by, and you're like, no, I don't want to see. Is there a head?
That's why
Is it right?
NASCAR is so popular.
Right there, you go, Randy. It's not. They don't.
It's
they
not
don't
just
care
because
about,
people love watching people make left turns all the time. Yeah.
Right. No, they want to see that car flip, 165 mile an hour and just zoom through the air.
There
and
for
just,
the action, baby.
they're
Yeah.
there for the. That's right. It's all gravy, baby. And they want that
It's
fire.
all gravy.
I've only
People
watched
being
one of those.
innocents.
I had to watch one of those because I was at somebody's house. It just happened to be that one where Dale Earnhardt died.
Oh boy.
I'm going to do this. We'll do this sport a favor and never watch it again.
Never watch it again.
That's
Never.
you were there at their house going, these NASCAR shows are so dull. It's just cars chasing one another. Boom.
Boom.
Okay.
Yeah, I live in South Carolina near the North Carolina border.
Mhm.
And when that happened, you would have thought the president died.
He did.
I mean, everyone was just so upset about it.
Absolutely.
And I never was interested in it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Right,
But,
no.
it wasn't my thing. And I was just like, my goodness, people just no joy was around me. Everyone was just so sad.
Well,
and,
also Dale Earnhardt was at the top peak of his career too when that happened, and nobody saw it coming. Nobody.
It was boom.
Yeah.
Just like that. I'm gonna have to get him.
But yeah,
on my
that's
show
pretty. You
sometime.
have that nailed pretty right though. There was a lot of people that it really his death really affected some lives.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy I was with, of course, he was a NASCAR fan because he was watching it, and it was a big deal, and it didn't even look. Well, I can't remember. Did it flip? I think it did.
Yeah,
but it was
I'm
kinda
pretty
like,
sure it did. Yeah,
he's okay. Yeah, he's okay because he's buckled.
they
in.
have
He
roll
had-
Cages. They have things in place, and no,
they've got
But-
the suits and a lot of things.
but as far as
First
that was,
time.
in all honesty, he was being a jerk the entire time, not letting anybody else get by, so the other guy would win. So he got clipped. I'm like, anyway.
if you're on the interstate, just remember your state highway patrol has those rules on the road for a reason. Okay,
Right.
so let's
It was a
do
tragedy.
the written exam. Do the written exam.
But
So you don't have your own
talking
horror
about-
story.
Sugar. If you're gonna do that, have me on your show too. I got some strip club stories.
Oh man. Oh yeah. You need to get this guy.
Sugar says I'm gonna have to get him on my show sometime when I get the computer back on. He can swap strip club stories with Pale Rider.
Get Randy on.
I got
the show.
stories.
He'll blow us away.
But
Okay,
Son, you were
horror.
talking
Anyway.
about right. Well, Son, you were talking about when you were a kid that you were too young to see that, and we kind of talked.
Yeah,
we kind
right.
of touched on that remember if it was last week we touched on like Bram Stoker had actually written
yes.
a kid's book and everything. And
Right.
you know, that was the thing about the scary stories to tell in the dark. Alvin, what was his name?
Well,
Schwartz.
was it
Schwartz.
Mary Shelley? Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein at what, 16, I think it was, on a dare. A group of people
Yeah,
were together and
She
asking
was young.
these young authors to write the scariest thing they could think of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
And she wrote it.
And see,
when she was about
and there
16.
you go. And so he had made the statement that like he acknowledges that they were written for adults, but like the chilling tales and scary stories now work for children since kids have gotten so sophisticated. Of course, he's not around anymore because I don't even look at nowadays. Because we were talking about that. Now they came in just like with the Comics Code Authority. They came in. They said, "Oh, this was too much. This was too much," and it's going to desensitize the kids.
You know,
To what?
From what? That's why I wanted to interject.
That's what I
And I forgot to mention this last week. Beatrix Potter, the author of Beatrix Potter, she quote unquote wrote children's books. I use quote unquote. We had the whole library of them. God, rest my parents' souls, but they got us all the books. And so, but I remember reading them as a kid, and then I would get this sense of dread, or I would feel sad because there's supposed to be a parable behind each story, right? But one of the characters would either get eaten in the worst way, they would get cooked, or they died, or something killed them. I'm just like, this is very dark. And I was like, wait a second. This is not a Disney story, comparatively speaking, right? You had the Disney books and all this other type of stuff. When you read Beatrix Potter, it was a horror because you had some. Go ahead, Randy.
There's an outgrowth from that too, from the old fairy tales books.
Yeah.
That's why we have the word Grimm. Grimm's fairy
Grimm.
tales. Yeah,
Grimm's fairy tales. Yeah,
Hansel and Gretel was not. Was a very horrific story.
Yes,
about a witch in the woods trying to capture kids to eat them.
Most of them were horrific stories.
The big bad wolf, the Little Red Riding Hood, ate grandma.
Killed a grandma, right? And was trying to kill her.
Going to go after Little Red, yeah.
But even in that story, he ends up cutting the wolf open and grandma comes out. I mean, but you're still cutting the thing open to keep grandma out.
I was like, what is with these stories? You know what I mean? I'm asking because I'm the youngest, so I'm asking my big sisters first, right? I'm just like, all right, I just validate some reality for me. I'm like, this is grim stuff. And then the oldest sister, the one that gave me the ultimatum, she's like, yeah.
It's really like an offspring of mythology, too. These stories were designed in order to teach morals and to teach lessons and to scare the shit out of the kids into acting right.
Right. That was
it's like the reverse Santa Claus there,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Krampus and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want toys. He's watching you. If you do something bad, you're not going to get toys. As opposed to some of these were like, if you do something bad, the Slither Bee's going to come and get you or something.
Yeah, the same as some religion's version of hell. Don't be good or you're going to go to hell.
You're going to go straight to hell. Do not
straight
pass
to hell. Yeah.
Don't collect $200. Better not. You better not collect $200.
That's Monopoly. That's a whole different game.
Yeah, but that's different.
Is it?
Sometimes.
Fine. Shout out to Bear Stearns.
You do have a point.
Well, if you look at all the famous or most of the famous horror stories, they're all morality tales.
Yeah.
We mentioned Frankenstein. It's don't play God. Don't meddle in things you're not meant to.
Sure.
A lot of like the old ghost stories is like don't go into the woods. Don't go
into the graveyard. Don't go into all these.
Don't answer the phone. Yeah.
Don't answer the phone.
And that carried on to your slasher movies, like say Halloween, where basically if you were a virgin, you were going to survive. But it was warning against teen sex.
And again, John Carpenter showing his stuff,
Right.
Yeah, John Carpenter.
Halloween. They Live too. It's got some horrific points to it, even though it's kind of a comedy.
Something that sticks with you. They Live sticks with you.
Yeah.
Like, to a point where if you see that as a kid, because I remember seeing that when it came out on VHS.
Oh,
I wouldn't say necessarily it was a mistake, but what used to scare me as a kid, but V. And what would scare me about V, and if you haven't watched V,
you know V, Stone?
I've only heard some people told me about it. I never had a chance to watch it.
It's an old sci-fi show.
Yeah,
it was a
basically
mini
Gotcha.
series to start with, and then they tried to do it as a regular show, and then they tried to reboot it a couple years back with the girl who played Inara on Firefly. What's the
Yeah.
Monica.
Monica.
on that? Monica.
Baccarin.
Yeah,
I know,
Baccarin. Baccarin.
Baccarin.
And that was actually pretty good. I was thinking about that earlier.
What really threw that's one of those scenes on television that just warped kids' minds.
Well, wait, but we got to tell him.
Okay.
Stone hasn't done it. That what they would do is they were lizard people, but they had human faces, because they're taking over everything. And
They were in
something
disguise.
would happen, and they would something would happen and rip their faces off, whatever. And you saw the lizard. The first time that happened, I don't remember it. My mother does, but she would, you know how moms do, right? They keep reminding you. She said, I ran out the room so fast. I do remember, though, when that show was coming on, I would hear the music come up because it would start black and you hear dun, 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 and then the V would come across the screen, a big old red V. And I was gone. I was to bed early.
That was it. You weren't sticking around for the main show.
Go ahead, Randy. I'm sorry.
Well, what happens in one of the episodes is a character gets a hold of a hamster or a guinea pig.
Okay.
And because it's a lizard, they decide to eat it.
Right.
And they have a scene, another practical effects scene that affected kids forever. They displace the jaw on a model head, and they slip the groundhog or hamster, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Not groundhog, guinea pig, straight down the throat, and you see it go down the throat.
Wow.
And it's expertly done, especially for the budget that they were on. Freaked a lot of kids out.
Well, see, and that makes me wonder. So today we have majority of kids have been seeing the CGI. Does it affect them the same way now?
It probably would, because the effect was so practically done. They might look at it and go, "Was that CGI?" No, this was before CGI. Well,
no. I mean that one, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
if they were to do it now in the middle of a bunch of
same.
other CGI stuff, the kids would just slough it off.
See, that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. Is CGI the CGI kind of ruined that effect? Since
But
it's not a practical.
when you talk about TV movies that are scary, nothing comes close to Trilogy of Terror, because I remember seeing that as a kid. Wow. And it was a couple of shows. It was a trilogy, 3 separate short stories on the made for TV movie. The first 2 completely forgettable, but the last one has Karen Black, who ends up getting this African tribal doll that has this tribal mask on, and the doll ends up with stop motion. There he came walking back through the wall again with stop motion. Would pursue Karen Black throughout her apartment with a little razor blade type spear, and that scared a lot of kids to the point where you don't forget that movie. You can see that doll to this day and go, "Dude, I remember that film. That was scary."
The doll looked creepy.
The doll was creepy. Yeah.
If you're curious about it, it's on Amazon Prime right now.
Okay.
Trilogy of Terror. I'm going to have to look. I'll tell you
It'd
what,
almost
you
be
and I
worth
will watch
sitting.
it and we'll converse about it, Stone. Because I've never seen it. It was before my time.
Yeah, before mine. Yeah.
It's almost worth sitting through the first 2 films or first 2 stories. I'm sure they're probably pretty badly done. But that last one, the stop motion in the last one was very effective, especially if you're a young kid, right before bedtime.
They made a second one in the 90s with Lysette Anthony. I saw that before the first Trilogy of Terror. And I do remember it was like 95. The first story had to do with like giant rats in a cemetery. And Lysette Anthony and the guy who played the main character in Forever Night were like robbing a grave.
Oh yeah.
And they open it up and the graves, they see the body, and all of a sudden the body shoots through the top of the coffin. So they go down there, and it's like this subterranean tunnel of giant rats that are breaking in all these coffins, eating the bodies. I thought it was very interesting of a concept.
Is it Trilogy of Terror?
2.
Because
that sounds pretty memorable. Yeah.
It sounds like Night Shift. Was it Night Shift that they kind of had that that Stephen King movie years ago?
Graveyard
Yeah,
Shift.
Graveyard
Shift.
Shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Graveyard,
Night
yeah.
Shift was the book. Yeah, Graveyard Shift. They kind of had that same problem going on down there. That was in the bonds. That wasn't
And
in
King
Graveyard.
was involved with Creep Show as well. There was a
Creepshow.
Creep Show
Mhm.
1 and 2 done.
Yes.
And that was patterned after those old EC horror comics that we mentioned earlier.
Oh man, that's a new knowledge for me. The name pops up, Pet Cemetery, when you were mentioning like animals and rats. And
Pet
stuff.
Cemetery was a separate book that King did.
That's a separate.
They've done.
Yeah, that's a separate book.
Yeah,
Well,
the original, I understand. I've never seen the original movie. I understand it's good. The second movie was really bad, from what I understand. I
Right.
haven't
The
seen that
second
one
movie
either.
sucked. The first
Yeah.
movie.
I wasn't
worth
wild about
watching.
either one of them, honestly. I mean, the
Okay.
second one, I like the second one better than I like the first one. But I
That's
was
fine.
never
We all have a
wild
guilty
about it.
pleasures.
But King's kind of a hit and miss author too. Sometimes
Sometimes,
when
yeah.
he's off, he's way off.
Yeah.
But
Way
when
off.
he's on, he's really on
He's
and really
boy, I
good.
tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I do want to have a show in the future about him because there's so much stuff that he's done in the past 30, 40 years. And like
Good Lord.
everybody's had some kind of effect. He's had some kind of effect one way or another.
Yeah, it impacted
But-
me, man.
Yeah.
mean,
I
But
just
like-
saw Shawshank Redemption not too long ago. That was just amazing.
Oh yeah, it just shows
Yes.
he's a fantastic
Again,
writer,
you know.
regardless how you feel about him or what he says, he's a good writer. So
Oh yeah.
When
Right.
like I said, when he's on, he's really on. And
he's
and
really on.
He's usually really on whenever he does a period piece. 1969
mhm.
was good.
Mhm.
Green Mile was just a brilliant work,
My
especially
gosh, what a
considering the
masterpiece.
marketing that they had done. The
Did you see the
Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption still works as a short story real well. So,
It's-
and a phenomenal movie. The movie still holds up real well.
yeah Graveyard Shift
Agreed.
definitely. And
It's a
Graveyard
good one.
Shift
Freaked
came
me out
from
as a kid. Yeah,
his book of short stories called Night Shift.
yeah.
And that was
Mhm.
one of the first books that I read because it was just different short. It was like a grown up version of scary stories.
Mhm.
But of course, it had like the Lawnmower Man in it, which isn't. I don't know if
Yeah,
anybody remembers
Lawnmower Man.
Lawnmower Man anymore, but it's definitely nothing like the movie. So,
No.
And
Yeah.
again, though, if King hadn't been that kid under the bed sheets at night reading those old EC comics, you wouldn't get a
Mhm.
lot of the stuff that he's written
yeah.
since then.
that he's
you know?
written. Yeah.
He's
Probably
been out
exposed
trying to
to-
capture that magic ever since. Yeah.
He's probably
I
also
believe it.
exposed to what the lights out and everything else too.
Oh yeah,
'Cause,
Mhm.
that too. It's
But-
all connected.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everything has a, it's almost like sequential art. There's something that influences the next person.
Yeah.
And like all of the, like we said, like the old time radio, like OTR, a lot of that like impacted that generation of people, generation of writers and authors. I guarantee you, those shows. We talked about Rod Serling a while back. I think that was like our first show, or maybe our second show.
Second show, yeah.
Second show, and a lot of those old Twilight Zone pieces. I mean, there is an element of horror behind a lot of them, but there's
Yeah, a
you
lot of
had that compound.
A lot of
there's-
those episodes, when they weren't written by Serling, were written by old time radio writers as well.
Right.
Richard Matheson, if I'm not
Richard
mistaken, got his
Yeah,
start
yeah.
doing
Yeah,
old time
Rich.
radio type shows and short stories that they turned into radio programs.
And that's an interesting
Go
thing
ahead,
too.
Mike.
Watching that generation of like silent film, and you had your silent film actors came from theater, so they the way they projected everything, they kind of
Right.
learned in theater, and so it's really interesting to see writers coming off of writing for radio, writing to television, and that they really had to be psychological and how they wrote, just
Right.
to convey it on radio. Can you imagine?
And a lot of that material also comes out of the pulp era, the 20s and 30s.
Yeah,
Mm.
Because there's some, you go back on those old pulp stories back when they were first out, they were considered as high trash, but you read them nowadays and they're pretty good quality literature. A lot of them are, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah,
Are.
the majority
Yeah.
of them, I believe it.
yeah. See, and look, one thing that stays with me now, and I just read it, was this is the first time I've ever read Lovecraft. It
Mhm.
was what is it called? The one with the deep ones.
There's a few of them. There's the Shadow over Innsmouth.
That's it. Shadow.
There you
of
go.
Death.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Mitch, you are an impressive encyclopedia. I have to say, your breadth of
yeah, I
knowledge
know.
is really
I grew up
amazing.
on horror,
Great.
so
Yeah,
that's
you-
But one thing I knew why I had to have Mitch on this show was because under his Facebook he says, "What you say? Yeah, I love ghost stories." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, we got to have you on." But
And again, if you snoop around on YouTube, if for us artists out there that need something to listen to while we're working, there is a YouTube channel out there, and I can't recall what the name of it is right offhand, but they run audio adaptions of all of the Lovecraft material.
Oh,
it's all available as audio books,
Yeah.
all for free, all up on YouTube. You just have to go out and look for it.
whenever I try to listen to an audio book and it's a good one, I have to stop and I have to read it. I don't know. It's something different that I just can't listen to it. I have to read it.
Uh-huh.
It's a different feeling to it. But I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and play a couple bumps, and then when we come back, we're going to take a look at some scary images. No, not tonight. All right.
Inside joke, Shawn.
Inside joke. It's an inside joke. Man.
I'm just smiling and nodding.
We'll see. All right, here we go.
We are the only show for independents all around, giving you a platform to spread your word all over town. Catch the Craze is the place to promote to your fans with the dream of Medina and Sam the Crazy Man. Subscribe to our show and never miss an episode. It's time to get your mans, listen to us on the go. Updated every week, we never miss a day. Join the squad, come on in. It's time to catch the craze. If you are an independent, catch the craze. Making moves on your own, catch the craze. On your grind in the streets, catch the craze. Join the movement, catch the craze.
Yeah, George, we did it again. Come on now. You know you want to do it. Catch the craze.
Your favorite podcast, it's Critical Blast.
I'm sorry, I had to do it. Let
And you
Shawn
promised.
know.
Yeah.
It was stuck in my head. I had to hear it. All right, guys.
That's
I want
fine.
y'all know, say 5% on your next Gemini mailer order. All you have to use is that coupon code RAGIN2. Get over there. That way you can protect those books. I get a whole bunch of books like this, and they're always in great shape. So, again, head over to Gemini, use RAGIN2, and get yourself 5% off of those mailers. Also, I want to let you know that we're on Facebook. If you like my Facebook page, please. Dispatches from outside the box.
Please like it.
That
It's
sounded like a
long.
plea.
Like it, yeah.
We're desperate for your attention.
And if you're really, really dedicated, send questions to dispatches from outside the box at gmail.com. Or if you
Email.
like the Facebook page, just message me. That'll work there too. And don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, the Raging 2 Broadcast Network. Hit the bell icon and please share it out, guys. Let's get known out there. Thank you so much for listening, and back to the show. All
Hit the
right.
button, guys.
Let's see. We got a couple of comments through that. Couldn't leave no way.
Thanks for the bumps.
Bumps.
Not a
There
problem,
you go.
George. Much
Not
love
a
to you,
problem,
George.
man. Not a problem. So anyway, I want to pull this up. And one
Okay.
thing about this was
Ooh.
one thing
Not
that
the
got me
Exorcist.
about this book. This is from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Of course, I can't. Do not ask me if this is the There are 3 of them. I do not know for a fact.
First
Which
book.
one?
Which?
This is babe.
First
This
book.
is the first book.
Scary
according to
Stories
Mitch.
to Tell in the Dark. It came out about late 80s, and it was basically a selection of short stories that were from folklore across the world. And it was supposed to be palatable for kids. But what ended up happening, this actually was banned because of the images.
It was banned.
It was banned. And
Wow.
I
Like
think
me.
they ended up re-releasing it in the 90s with softer images. But I don't remember.
Late 2000s.
Late 2000s?
Wow.
Yeah.
Took
Wow.
them. Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
So they were that sensitive. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, our kids are going to be destroyed, bro. Take a look outside, and there's enough stuff to destroy the kids more so than scary stories. All right, so just
Yeah, right.
let them watch
These-
stuff.
These images didn't mess me up. Life did.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Come on, life messed me up, dude.
This
All
is-
right, anyway.
This is from one story I definitely have to contribute my claustrophobia to, and this was the bride kind of locked in the trunk. I think the husband kind of, and guys, I'm just remembering vaguely. I think the husband thought the bride had left or whatever, but somehow she got locked in the trunk, and he found her like years later, still stuck in the
Ooh.
trunk with the.
It's just amnesia. It happens to the best of us.
Oh yeah, you
Yeah.
know.
You know, she has great dental work. I'll tell you that much.
And of course,
Fantastic.
Stephen Camille is the artist. And these images invoked those stories. And honestly, if you go back and you read the stories on their own,
Mhm.
I think he wrote them. He wrote them because they're meant to be told out loud. And I think he even read them to himself out loud in the bathroom. Which, if you're a writer, I know you've probably done that
Do that all the time.
all the time. It's the
Yeah, in the bathroom, in the shower. You know what I mean? In front of the neighbor's dog. Just read it aloud. Yeah. Just read it aloud, damn it, and you'll see whether or not it sucks. And then,
and of course, this is the cover. So
Oh
these-
yeah,
so
great.
So that's the thing.
Great.
I don't necessarily. This is what stuck, which stayed with me, were the images, and of course, I think it was these images that helped the story. What you think, Mitch? Is this? Did the stories, resonate, or was it the stories and the pictures together, or?
For me, it was kind of both. Obviously, I picked the book up as a kid because of the cover, and then of course, I read it, and it was the perfect mix to me of scary stories and scary artwork. And to me, when they changed the artwork, they did it a great disservice, because the stories are good if you like old-fashioned, like urban legends and ghost stories, but the stories with the artwork, just, comics, come on, it's the same
Right.
thing where
Yeah.
there's a marriage between the two that if you take out one element, it's not the same. It's not as impactful or good.
Right. So-
Agreed.
So, Shawn, when you were writing your comic, taking into consideration, what did those images kind of line up for you?
Yeah, I think what's really great about comic and sequential art as an art form is that's what you've got: sequential art and words, and the words are secondary. So unlike with screenwriting, where you have, there's going to be a soundtrack, and there's going to be actors, and there's going to be all kinds of other things to tell your story. If you pare all that away and you pare it down to sequential art, and the minimum, for me, the minimum characterization, not minimum characterization, that's the wrong thing to say, the minimum amount of words to develop your characters and develop your situations. It's a very rigorous and sort of pure art form, because the less you have, the less you have to work with, the more you have to make what you have really work. So you strip away the sound effect, the soundtrack, and everything else, and you have to tell your story, create your mood, create your characters, create tension, your
pacing and everything.
Yeah, like define space and the movement of time, and all of that has to happen within this framework. And that to me is the magic of sequential art, is just how there are so many techniques and so many clever ways that you can communicate just using sequential art and sound effects and words, the dialogue. So that's the thing that I'm really, really loving about the art form.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you say? You kind of rely on both working together too, right? I mean,
yeah. I'm both the writer and the artist of my stuff. So a lot of times as I'm writing it out and fleshing the story out, I will think about the images, like at what angles it'll be, stuff like that, instead of just putting them in, putting all that stuff in the script, which is what some people do, on the paper. But me, it's if you understand what I'm trying to say, it's
you mean like your close up, your extreme close up, your tilt angle, and everything. Right.
Yeah. And so when I actually go to draw it, I already have a lot of that stuff figured out in my head that I just have to thumbnail it and then just put it on paper.
Right.
Because for comics, images mean a lot. Like you could have the best script in the world, but if the artwork's terrible, then the book's not going to be any good.
Yeah.
I think
one has to complement the other.
Yeah. I think this is the toe one, if I'm not mistaken.
That one is she finds a bone actually out in the
Oh, okay. I think
it's a similar story, and it has a different type of ending where she eventually just gets mad, throws the bone out the window, says, "Take it." Yeah,
that's got a little bit of an Edward Gorey look to it. That's a really interesting style.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and this is and why he did it for this book. This is kind of his style. And one thing that's always worked for me is this like stringy look that he gives to some of the stuff. Let's see if he. Yeah, that was not so much.
Oh man, that's
you see, he has this stringy look that just really resonated with me for a while. So
it's quite disturbing, but it's very evocative, and that's the type of artwork that you want to complement your story, because like Shawn was saying, you don't have all those additional elements to create the mood, the atmosphere, the environment, the tension, and et cetera, space between the characters or the villain or what have you. All of that needs to be communicated through a word medium, and you need at least one piece of artwork to help, like I said earlier, complement that. It's brilliant. It's brilliant work.
It is. It's fantastic. Randy,
sir,
you did War of the Worlds. When you
did.
were writing War of the Worlds, how much input did you give the artists to draw? Because I know you could draw also, but did you kind of rely on the artists to understand what you're...
The artist was the artwork on that was done by Horace, and was living in Germany, or is in Germany still. I did full scripts for that, just like as if it was a movie, and sent them to him, and he faithfully adapted everything and included. I don't think he changed any of my dialogue at all. And follow it. We had a few exchanges at the start where he showed me what the Martians and the Martian machines would look like, and it was all good. He's just an incredibly gifted illustrator, and worked right off of the scripts. So
it's amazing.
But before that, when I was writing it, the fun part of the fun of writing that book is going off of the original novel. Not using the radio play, which really influenced me as a kid, or the Paramount movie that really influenced me as a kid, but going back and rereading the book. And then there was an annotated version. He gave all of his notes, I think, to the University of Indiana. And there was almost like a textbook dissection of the novel that they sold through the University of Indiana Press. It was a very expensive book for me at the time. It was like $40-50 to get, but it was amazing to sit and read, because it dissected everything what Wells was thinking. And at the time that Wells wrote it, it was a very horrific book. Well, it's one of the big popular horror tropes still to this day, is the alien invasion.
Right.
And that, though he wasn't, he might not have been the exact first person to suggest life on another planet, but he was one of the first people to write about a full-scale alien invasion with weaponry. And there's a lot of stuff that came out of Wells's work that was incredibly prophetic. Laser technology, the mustard gas, the chemical warfare, the black smoke that was used in the for the Martians, even the suggestion or the description of the gray aliens that you see, and that's such a staple nowadays. He threw them into the cylinders. He got paid by the word, so sometimes he got really overly descriptive, depending upon how much money he needed. But there's a section in the book where the narrator, who is never really named, is traveling to London, and because the situation in his mind is completely hopeless. He sees a cylinder wide open, and he goes inside and sees what he describes as thin gray aliens with almond-shaped eyes that are blackened over, that the aliens had packed, that the Martians had packed for lunch to eat along the way.
Wow!
So it's really fascinating to sit and dissect the book. And there's so much of the book that's been slided over. It's like Wizard of Oz. You see the MGM Wizard of Oz movie, and it's maybe 20% of what's actually in the original Wizard of Oz book. Yeah.
If that much. Yeah.
And there's a lot of, speaking of grim fairy tales, there's a lot of grimness in the Oz books as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oz books. Yeah. Alice in Wonderland, all that stuff.
The origin of the Tin Woodsman is particularly horrific, as
Big Chopper. Yes.
The witch enchants his axe to cut off different limbs of his body as he goes along.
Limbs of his body. Yeah. Oh, I tell you.
And of course, this is what, 1901 when Wizard of Oz came out, I think.
Early 1910s, I think, 1920s. I think Land of Oz come out, I think, in the mid 20s. The second Oz book came out like 3 or 4 years after the first one.
Yeah.
But there's a lot, just like with horror, there's so much metaphorically, and there've been entire textbook treatments where they've gone in and shown, just like the annotated War of the Worlds book that I have, the different situations that was going on at the time that he incorporated into Oz metaphorically.
Yeah, there's a lot of political allegory going on.
Yes.
Yeah. The Tin Man is the heartless, industrialist, and the Scarecrow is the brainless, farmer, and the Yellow Brick Road is the gold standard, and the Cowardly Lion is William Jennings Bryan, and all. It's amazing how it's funny, as a writer, if you do something like try to make a political allegory and you're being that specific, it's so hard to do. I've never tried to write anything like that, but to do something else, like you can read that whole book and not even know or care about the political allegory there, because it's so effective in so many ways. And yet there's that whole other layer underneath it. Yeah. It's really remarkable.
Even though the politics has moved on.
Yeah.
The story is still evergreen and timeless. The big thing that I pulled out of the story the first time I read it is that everybody already had what they were searching for to start with. They just had to be told that they had it. Just like Dorothy had the way to go home the entire book.
The entire time.
She just had to know how to get it done. So the wizard actually giving them the diploma, the fake heart, the pouring the brains into the Scarecrow was their reaffirmation of their already, and in the book they already show that they've already have those abilities.
Yeah, but in order for her to get home, it was still kind of hard because she had to go across the desert and everything else.
Yeah, there's that.
It wasn't just the clicking of the heels.
Yeah,
in heels.
Yeah. There's a great illustrated version of the Wizard of Oz that came out recently, and because in the movie she just clicks her heels and she wakes up in her bed, but in the book she travels across the desert and and
she's running on them shoes.
Yeah, and it's beautifully illustrated. It's really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the second book, I tell everybody, if you haven't read the second book, which is called Land of Oz, that at the time he wrote that, his wife was really into the women's lib movement, knew Susan B. Anthony, and the main villain is Ginger in that. It's got some great metaphors and allegories in there for the politics that was going on at the time. It's really a stroke of genius work.
That is hilarious. Is they come back? Of course, the Scarecrow's been kicked out by Ginger, and he's traveling with the I think it's Jack,
Jack Pumpkinhead and the Sawhorse. Yeah,
and we know who the other person is. I don't want to do that in case somebody reads it because it's a pretty big twist ending.
There's a great twist ending to it. Yeah.
Pretty big twist.
I got to
But,
read the second one. I've never read it. You guys
Oh
are-
my gosh! Yes.
There's
It has
what, like
something-
10, 12 of them, right?
There's no Baum wrote, I think, 26 of them, and then
27
his assistants and people after that wrote quite a few beyond that takes place in that world.
Yeah,
But
he
the
even
first two
mentioned
especially are just
middle.
works of genius. There's just no. It's just
Masterpiece.
amazing. Yeah, just masterpieces.
because there's a part of it where the scarecrow's coming up and the guy's coming up and like, we don't know what to do. All the women went with Ginger and we don't know how to feed our babies.
All the men are
just
helpless.
nuts
Yeah,
'cause- yeah.
Helpless.
Yeah.
Ginger and her all-girl army. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She,
they
of course, she was a
decide
mess
to
of
rebel
herself.
against the men because they're tired of doing all the housework. So their main weapons are knitting needles that they threaten to poke the men's eyes out with. So when they get to the Emerald City and chase the Scarecrow off, who's king of the Emerald City, because the wizard left it to him when he left, the first thing they do is take their knitting needles and start stabbing all of the gems out of the walls of the Emerald City.
See that
Great,
kid?
I got to read this.
Stabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Me too.
the book is amazing. You'll read it in the afternoon. There's a lot of really great, enchanting characters in it that just add to the flavor of the first book. The only characters that continue on is Scarecrow, Tin Woodsman, and a little bit of Glinda.
Yeah.
But other than that, he's creating all new characters. He got bombarded with letters, and he couldn't sell another book the way that he had sold Wizard of Oz. So he wrote Land of Oz,
Yeah.
and it just carried on from there. He ended up doing one Oz book a year until he passed. After that,
he did move into cinema, trying to bring it to
oh yeah, he was a big
Patchwork Girl.
Yeah, he did. He had a stage play of the Wizard of Oz that he carried around that they filmed as a silent film for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't like the MGM version at all. To be honest with
Because once
you,
you read the
I
book,
like you got to take it for what it is,
Especially,
but it's not the book. There's so
He
much
would've
more in
loved
the
it,
book.
though.
Right.
Yeah.
he would have
Yeah,
loved
for
it.
me, they're totally
People love
separate things, but they're
Oh, yeah.
both, the
right.
movie's wonderful to me in its own way. I mean,
Yeah,
if you expect it to be the book, it's not, but I can't hate that movie. There's just too much Marvel.
Yeah.
stuff
If
in
you
it.
ever see the Disney movie, the Road to Oz, I think it was called, with
Return to
Fairuza Balk.
Oz.
Return to Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
That's got some of the
Mitch.
characters from the second
right,
and third
Mitch.
books in it.
Second and third. Yeah, it's kind of a mixture of the
Mhm.
third story in there.
But it doesn't. They
The-
should have adapted the second book because to me, the
would've been,
second
man.
book is there's a lot more whimsy and a lot more just in my mind just genius put into the second
Well,
book.
also
And there's
they
some
made-
pretty horrific elements in there as well.
they made Mombi and the witch.
Yeah.
That changed heads. They
Mhm.
made her the same person in Return
Yes.
of Oz.
Yeah, they
And it
combined a
wasn't-
couple of characters together, and the Wheelers are
But
in.
it was still great.
in there,
It was
yeah.
still great. I like that one. but-
That movie is closer to the actual feel of the books than
It
the
is,
MGM
yeah.
film is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, because when you read Wizard of Oz, one of the first paragraphs is L. Frank Baum talking about Kansas is great. This is great. The farm is great. Everything's great.
Everything's great.
And Return to Oz kind of gives you that great feeling. That
Yeah.
So I mean, and MGM did too. I give them that.
Well, that's why the bookends on the MGM movie are in black and white.
right.
Mhm.
Is to add to the dullness. You know,
To
they're
the
in
dullness,
Kansas. Oh my God, they're in
It's
Kansas.
God,
Yeah.
Kansas.
Wasn't also
Before
during
we-
the Depression also? The
I
storyline?
well
I
the
think
when
it
the
was
film was
pretty
done,
principled.
they were in the Depression when the film was done.
Yeah.
When the book was written, it was before that, but there was still
Yeah.
the farms were still struggling.
I think he moved. There's
Before
actually a
FDR
great
did this.
autobiographical, or biographical, not necessarily autobiographical,
Biography.
movie starring John Ritter
Yeah.
as L. Frank Baum.
Another
It was a
made for
miniseries that
TV
came out.
movie that you
Yeah.
don't see anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that came out years ago, and it kind of went through his life and him coming up with and I know it's very fantastical as far as because I don't think he looks at a bookshelf. I don't think that's how he came up with the name Oz, but it's like O through Z at a filing cabinet. And
That's the legend.
is it okay?
Yeah.
I wasn't positive for that, but
It
that was a fantastic
was
movie.
almost the Wizard of App.
Wizard of App. We were so close.
So
we
close.
were so close.
But
Yeah.
before
The
we go
anatomy
into-
physiology app, you know.
But
A
before
through
we go
P.
into Kickstarters and
Or
the
no,
like,
on LMN and
Oh,
and
And
Yeah, the Wizard
yeah.
of Anne. Anne.
Yeah. Yeah, Wizard Dan.
Yep.
But
Now
before we
marker.
move on, I just kind of want to say this right here, though. This is the story.
Yeah, this has been spooking me out.
Yes,
Yeah.
the spider was laid an egg in her face,
Yeah,
and she thought it was a zit. It was a zit or something. She kept
but
picking
it
at
wasn't.
it, and it wasn't. Of course, it was
It
baby
was not.
spiders. And this is the kind of scary story that sticks with you. It doesn't need a monster. It's kind of freaking spiders.
I mean, it's
They're
freaking.
not-
I mean,
it's
have you
not
seen
the
a real
face.
spider?
Spider
with
is a
the babies?
monster. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they eat all the insects. Okay,
Them.
So keep one in your house. Keep one in your house.
Watch the
They'll eat
movie
all the
Them
bugs.
sometimes and don't get unsettled. Let's see that happen.
Mm.
Remember that? Giant spiders in the sewers?
I remember that. Now I'm.
yeah,
now
I
I got the
remember.
heebie-jeebies.
No, I don't think
Now I
I've
got the
seen it.
heebie-jeebies.
I don't think I've seen it. But if it has
Them.
spiders, I'm not going to watch it.
Oh, there's
No, you should watch it,
I
Michael.
can't remember if it was them or not, but one giant insect movie I remember was like an ant, like a giant ant walking over a hill,
Oh,
and
you
he
might be right.
spits
Yeah,
out-
that might be them.
and he spits out a rib cage.
Yeah.
Oh, the
Oh,
giant ants was
yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I remember
Yeah.
that.
That I'm pretty sure that's them, but there's another one with a giant tarantula.
That was black and white, right?
Yeah.
That was
this is
1950s.
all-
Yeah, don't let the black and white scare you.
Oh no,
There's-
that's awesome.
There's some phenomenal cinema in black and white.
You have to take in consideration. Well, that's a whole nother show.
Whole nother show.
That's a whole other show. But the fact that they had to film in black and white, you have to give the set designers and everybody a round of
a
applause.
lot of credit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But hey,
a lot
Randy,
of
I put in the private chat. I put up the Zoop. Sean's
Link? Sure.
link. Will you pull that up? Because I know you have
I
the video
sure
on
will.
there, and I have no sound. So
Yeah,
let's
I
take a
still
look.
have no sound. Still, I just wanted to put that out.
It's what, Microsoft. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there you go. I'm just hashtag blame Bill. Hashtag blame Bill.
Blame
Even though I talk
the,
about
that movie, it was about the making of a creature movie. It had John Goodman in it during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Matinee.
Matinee,
bro.
thank you.
Yeah.
That was a great
That was
movie
a fantastic.
contextualizing the kind of creature movies from that time period with the communist scare and everything. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, great. That was a great one, Sean. Thank
Where
you.
are we at here? Right there. Wood Steak.
Let's stay. We're going to go ahead and play this trailer. We're going to talk a little bit about this, Sean.
All right.
All that beautiful bean footage.
Rolling that bean footage. Vanilla Groove Media.
Gotta love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vanilla Groove. It's all gravy, baby.
It's all gravy.
Yeah, so they got somebody that over there who just pulled out the guitar and riffed off a Hendrix like riff there, and it
Purple
works
Haze
great.
type.
That's
It's really
cool.
It
amazing.
does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this the setup for this is it's a vampire at Woodstock, thus Woodsteak, and it's definitely going for the comedy of horrors approach. Although I have to say the comedy doesn't really start to get into it until we get to the festival, and in this first issue, we're kind of setting up the backstory. So when I did this, I had to figure out why there was a vampire in upstate New York and how it got there and what it's doing. So there's some setup, and then what you're looking at right now is sort of the main hippie characters on Haight Street in San Francisco or planning their next anti-war protest in Berkeley. So my hippie characters road trip across the U.S. for the festival. And the guy on the left we're looking at is sort of wanting to be the next Rolling Stone, rock and roll journalist.
Next.
And this guy, Artie, is an
Yeah.
anti-war protester with a trust fund. Kind of best friends from when they were kids, and the three of them road trip over. So that's kind of the setup, and then the vampire returns, in 1969, right before the festival, and all of that. So that's what you're looking at here. And this artist is amazing. His name is Philippe Kroll. He's a young guy, lives in Brazil,
That's awesome.
yeah, he's done a really amazing job. He digitally paints everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's turning out really great. And actually, he delivered me like print ready files of almost everything today. So we're down to the last page. I'm getting someone else to letter it. I got this guy named SK who does the lettering for me. He did it on the last one, the sci-fi, The Killing Machine, and so we're gonna redo the lettering. But it'll be off to the printer in like 3 weeks.
Oh, that's cool, man.
Cool. Yeah.
So like first week of May-ish, something like that.
Yeah, if I can get it to the printer first, 3 weeks. I mean, the printer I've been working with, they have paper, which is amazing.
That's amazing in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, the supply lines are starting to heal over.
yeah. So, assuming
Thankfully.
that's all good, I should have it by the first week of May.
That's awesome, dude. Just
So
kudos to this.
Looks really good.
What
Yeah, it
made you
does.
say-
Yeah, I've got it.
What Woodstock
Go-
needs is a vampire. It's
Part of it is that aside from just fun with the name, what I think is really interesting as I was getting into it is that the hippie generation, the Summer of Love, and '69 and Woodstake was kind of the high point of this optimism, this almost naive optimism of the '60s, that everything in the world could be changed. And there's nothing more cynical than a vampire, right? Someone who just sucks the lifeblood out of people, leaves their dead bodies and moves on, in this endless thirst to continue a life that is pretty much just a life of destruction. So, I really like the idea. And I do, like I said, the comedy comes into it. The vampire sits around and smokes a joint and talks about, things. One of the guys gets in a argument about the Vietnam War with a vampire. So there's a lot of fun in there with just dealing with the culture of the time. And the other thing that's really fun, obviously, is the music. And I stayed really close to the festival. So, when things happen in the comic book, what's on stage or the music that's playing at the festival, is what was playing at that time, because it goes through Friday night and Saturday night. And there were some great coincidences, like, there's a big dramatic scene on Saturday night. I looked at the playlist and it was Creedence Clearwater playing Bad Moon Rising,
buddy.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
So
Can't beat that
it's
at
been a
all.
lot of fun.
That's great.
Sweet.
I see that. Your character was it Artie? I couldn't.
Yeah, Artie Kaufman is the anti-war protester. Yeah.
I feel some like Jim Morris from The Doors type vibe.
Yes.
From, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
a lot of Jim Morris. I'm like, I looked at it, I was like, that's really cool. One of those really influential guys, who wasn't, particularly at that time period. But I really, really dig that time, particularly within the music, message it was communicating. But I like how you threw, like, why not a vampire in there? And that's where creativity, that's where it flourishes. I think this is a really awesome concept. What are we looking at here?
I also see that you can get your
Different
other
tiers.
books, The Killing Machine. What's that about?
Yeah, so The Killing Machine's a sci-fi, and we actually wrapped that one up on Kickstarter in February. We did like close to 200%, so we did good on that one.
Congrats.
And final rewards are being shipped out next week. So that really kind of a different, story. Kind of a, been selling it as it's kind of a combination of more thoughtful, cerebral science fiction with more sort of with some action packed in there. The good thing about this is that for the rewards, I can offer both comic books, so you can get both print issues for $8, and because you're sticking them in one Gemini mailer, so you can keep the cost down and get 2 books out there for the cost of one, hopefully.
Sure.
That's awesome. Man, I love it.
Are you just going to run it on Zoop, or are you going to, after this campaign, you're going to try another?
So Zoop has been, not great for me. We did a lot better with The Killing Machine than we're doing with this one. We'll probably run an issue 2 of this, because we're going right into issue 2. Probably in the June timeframe, we'll be running a Kickstarter for the second issue of this one.
Oh, cool. All right.
That's what's up.
So,
look out for
so
it.
since you're a screenwriter, have you had thoughts about maybe actually turning this into a pilot or anything?
Well, this actually started as a screenplay. So I wrote this as a screenplay, and actually, it did fairly well, and it was a second rounder at the Austin Film Festival this year. So awesome. And actually, it was while I was at the Austin Film Festival that I was like, I'm just going to make this as a comic book. Austin is great. It's a writer's festival. If you ever get a chance to go, It's terrific because they have all kinds of panels about, about the nuts and bolts of writing in the industry. A lot of, agents and other people running around the festival. But, the idea that it's really hard to get a screenplay produced, as you know. So few of them actually get produced. I love this idea. And I'm like, I'm not going to wait for somebody to produce this. And also, it's not cheap. It's not like your indie horror cheap film because it's a period piece. And the music rights alone are going to be ridiculously expensive.
Right.
That's right.
So with a comic book, it was the perfect way to go with this one. So if it ever emerges in the screenplay world again, that would be fine. I've got the screenplay, but yeah, no, I'm fully into graphic novel. It'll be 7 issues, and I'm going to collect it as a trade paperback with the full story.
That's awesome. That sounds like a plan, dude. I love it.
Looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. Yeah. So let's look over here at let me see here. I got to pull up Mr. Mitch Rogers' website.
We got more bean footage. Okay.
We do. We have a whole
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. We're going to pull up
at.
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood because that's his last name is Rogers. So I've been waiting to tell that corny joke the whole.
I'm
show.
sure he's never heard that before either.
Pretty never, and not once. You're welcome. Celtic Cross Studios. Let's do
and
it.
How long has Celtic Cross been around?
Since I started.
There you go.
Wait a minute. That deserves a bell.
It's about, just under 14 years because the first comic I did, which is the first issue of the Boger, was I originally called myself Penny Dreadful, but then come to find out there's another
Penny Dreadful.
Yeah, there's another Penny Dreadful indie comic publisher. So with the second issue, I came up with Celtic Cross Studios. I Googled it and went through a few pages on Google to make sure. So as far as I know, yes, I'm the only.
Page.
Yeah, I went, 5 pages in. I was at it all night, so I didn't want to make that mistake again.
Oh.
Well, you never know, you have to look, you do your due diligence, and even then something could spring up.
Yeah. But so far, you're the only guy with
So
as far as I know.
Let's go through these. Give us kind of I know it has a brief synopsis, but give us a brief synopsis for those who are listening. what each title has and.
Okay, well, the first one there is the very first is the graphic novel collection of the very first Boger miniseries. And the Boger is, to put it in simple terms, the god of vengeance. Like if you want, your revenge against someone for anything, you conjure them up and send them after whoever. And the first one, I was, fresh out of high school, early 20s. So it's the Boger against an organized crime syndicate. Pretty simple, I know. And the first one's told entirely from the monster's point of view.
Oh, neat.
So you get kind of the inner workings of how he thinks. Of course, I was an angry goth kid, so he kind of talks like an angry goth kid in the first issue, at least. Then I kind of broke it off and did more stuff with it. I fleshed the universe out a little bit, and with the second series, Southern Gothic, which is the next one down there, I made it more literary, less over the top gore, more suspense. And Southern Gothic, which the Indiegogo finished up a few months ago, and I've been working hard on the collected edition, adding scenes to it. I just got done with it a few days ago, but it's about this guy who, as a kid, witnessed. I'm a guy in a small town called Bethlehem, Mississippi. He, as a kid, sneaks out one night to go fishing and witnesses a black man being lynched by the Klan, and he grows up to be the town sheriff. And of course, this event traumatized him. So he's, so he has regular nightmares, and in his innocence was shattered at such a young age. Now there's a serial killer in town killing entire black families that he's trying to stop. Of course, the event from his past, he kind of still remembers it. So he takes it as more of a personal mission.
Yeah.
Since he never did anything back then to catch the guy. And then the Boger shows up in town and starts killing white people. And he kind of learns that all three events, the event from his childhood, the serial killer, and the Boger are all tied together, and he's trying to figure out the inner workings behind the events.
Cool.
So it's kind of it's a cross between standard monster horror and a murder mystery.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this in the store now, or because you said you just finished the Indiegogo?
Yeah, I just finished the Indiegogo to collect the full 5-page miniseries, plus added pages, to kind of flesh the story out and make it more interesting. So all I have to do is just send the new pages to my editor, and then put the final product together, ship it to the printer, and it will be out officially September of this year.
All right.
And for the people who missed it on Indiegogo, I'm going to do a Kickstarter, or I'm going to try to do a Kickstarter for people either weren't able to, or
Right.
There's
do it on
various
yeah.
circumstances.
Some people just prefer Kickstarter, so
Yeah.
It's just
Some people are different. I understand.
Yeah.
They're different, and sometimes they're indifferent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And sometimes they just feel comfortable with what you used to, So, and this I see you have the Flesh and Blood collection.
It's essentially what I call all of my non-Boger work, mainly short stories that I've released through myself and other people, other people's books. I mean, prose fiction that I've worked on. It's basically just anything non-Boger related is that was part of the Flesh and Blood collection.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you were definitely influenced by scary stories too, huh?
Yes. If you hadn't noticed earlier, you can tell by that cover.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a killer cover, man.
Oh, thank you.
This is killer.
Well, and it looks like we're all nervous out of print. So.
Yeah. It was what I did right after the first Boger miniseries. And it's a mess. I got 3 issues in and had to quit, because 1, it wasn't selling, and 2, I just didn't want to do it anymore. Because eventually you have, even as an independent guy, you have to say, you know what, I have to stop this. You have to know when to quit.
Yeah, sometimes you got to know, when to call it on something.
Yeah,
we get it.
Oh my goodness, it was sophomoric. If you ever read it, all I have to say is I'm sorry.
Well, then that's okay. But you know what? That's the best part of indie comics. If it doesn't work the first time, and if it continues to nag you, come back to it. You can always redo it. No problem.
That's right. You've got the option. You've got the touch.
Do-overs in comics.
Yeah. You've got the power.
Oh man, so much just walking around doing nothing in that book. I don't know why I thought that would be a good story.
Hey, you live and you learn. You got to do it. It's best to get it out. So.
Yeah,
and this is just galleries of your artwork?
Yeah. If people want to buy prints, I got your prints for sale, I think, on my store page.
Suffer. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I had to do my own take on the Obama campaign poster because everyone else was doing it. I was like, what? I'll do a Boger one.
Why not?
It's nothing. I don't mean anything political by it. It's just
what it is. Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It looks cool. It looks freaking cool.
You.
I mean, it's just bottom line. You know what I mean? Have your own take on it. That's what creativity is for. You know what I'm saying?
Are you going to be appearing anywhere?
Yes, actually, this weekend I'm going to be at SC Comic Con here in my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina.
Cool.
At the I almost said TD Convention Center. That's its old name. Its new name is the Greenville Convention Center.
Did you say Titty Convention Center?
That's
TD.
because I said TD. Oh,
TD.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
TD. All right, because I was
TD.
like, sign me up because I'm all.
Oh, yeah,
about
sign
it.
me up. I'd be the only person at the convention, and I'd make sure of that.
Really like that
Mike Jimmy
Nosferatu
says-
picture
Mike Jimmy
there.
says, loving the style, mate. It's really good stuff. It is.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
really
thank
is.
you.
It is, Mike. That's really
I
nice.
like it.
We were saying, Randy, you like the Nosferatu type?
Yes, the illustration there at the bottom.
Oh,
right
thank
there.
you.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Yeah, I did that for a local film, like independent film theater.
Cool.
Was going to do a calendar, and each month was going to be a movie. And of course, me being the horror guy, they went to me and said, could you do any public domain horror movie
Yeah.
for October?
Yep.
And in my opinion, Nosferatu is the greatest horror movie ever made. So I was like, I'll do Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Then the
There you
company
go.
went under, and so that never occurred.
Man.
It happens.
It happens, bro. Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not.
Makes you want to do 11 more and make your own calendar.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
This might do that actually.
Not a bad idea.
I'm
Not a
sold.
bad idea. Excellent.
So,
And if I do it, I have. I've already decided I have to do Santa Claus Conquers the Martians for December.
There you go.
Santa Claus conquers the Martians.
If you're gonna,
Why
yeah,
not?
if you're gonna do it, do the
Mike
classic.
Jimmy says, hell yeah, dude. Do it.
Sean, can we find you anywhere in the convention anytime soon? We know.
Yeah,
Got
actually,
Mitch
this
doing
weekend I'm going to be at the Wicked Comic Con in Boston.
something in Boston, right?
Yeah, it's a one-day Saturday convention. I'll be there with copies of The Killing Machine and some preview copies of Woodstake.
Cool.
Oh, nice. You guys, if you're in the Boston area, you guys go check out my boy. If you're in Greenville, South Carolina, just, or if you're in Charleston, just make the drive. It's not, it's fine. It's not hurricane season yet on the East Coast. So this is a great time to go to see these conventions.
Well, yeah. As long as there's not a major snowstorm going through, you're all good.
Well, yeah, as long as there's no major snowstorm, because we're not out of the woods on that.
Says the guy in Mississippi, but whatever.
Says,
I mean, listen,
says the guy in Michigan.
No, I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There should be no problem going. Yeah.
Up in the ears of the rabbit, up in the Upper Peninsula here in my state, they just celebrated the fact they had 300
there.
inches of snow this winter.
The 300 inches.
Yes, 300 inches plus.
That's a lot of snow.
That's a lot of white stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not talking about the uncut stuff from Columbia, kids. We're
No.
talking about the stuff that falls from the sky. That's the next show. Right?
Dunes of drifts. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So, Randy, I
You know
haven't
what we're
forgotten about you. You want to talk about this real quick because I know we got a Kickstarter coming up.
Long
There it
Shots
is.
campaign, 7 publishers, 9 books, one big deal. We just passed 85 backers on this. Over
Congratulations.
4,000's been pledged for as little as $25. You can get 9 books that are great jumping off points for 9 phenomenal IPs, all because we all went through and printed these books on a whim, not a whim, but on a promise of a deal that never existed. So now we've got this stock that we want to move to a reading audience. They're beautifully printed books, 3 staples down the spine, beautiful quality paper, fantastic covers, just great books all the way through. A wide variety of genres, a wide variety of flavors for you to choose from. There's 3 of them that are black and white, but they're great black and white books, like The Well Keeper, which is a fantasy book from D. Fish that has intricate line work, just beautifully done. Tall Tales from Daphne Lage, which is a panda with a sword. How can you lose? You
How
know?
can you can't
You can't.
do that. Can't lose with
Superhero
it.
action with the
Right.
Interceptor and Luke Stone's
Yeah.
hybrids, cosmic wonder with Only Death Can Save Us, supernatural investigations with God's hand, even a silly little 3-foot tall giant robot that fights big monsters and defends his city from different types of dangers, as long as he can do it on the clock and get time and a half for hazard pay.
Hazard pay. Now,
That's
a
hero.
smart
That's
robot.
my HeroBot Zero character there. None of these properties are ending. All of them are going to be continuing in one form or another. There's already campaigns out for hybrids. Only Death Can Save Us, Unstoppable Comics, who does an Interceptor, Tall Tales, Oswald Chronicles is another great book about a magical mouse in a urban type setting, learning magic. Just a great variety of books here. They were meant for the mass market. The promise was there was a major retail chain that was going to start carrying comics, and we were going to get in right on the ground floor of that, but come to find out it was all a bunch of empty promises from a so-called distribution company that couldn't get off the ground. So
a lot of malarkey.
For as low as $25 plus shipping, you get all 9 books. They're moving really fast over on Indiegogo. There's only 29 hours left in that campaign. And then there's going to be the Fellowship of the Indies over on Kickstarter that'll be offering the same books and a few other different fringes. With the Indiegogo campaign, you can get metal bookmarks, you can get sketch cards, you can get prints along with it. There's some really great packages over there. So go over there and take a look. Only 29 hours left to go. That's the long shots over on Indiegogo.
Hey, look, this is what Nita had to say about it. This is what she wanted you to hear about the Fellowship of the Indies. 9 titles were gifted from the race of men, who above all else desired distribution. For within these books was found the stories and art to entertain the masses. But they were all of them deceived, for a grift was made.
And if you watch last Wednesday's Zimcast, you got kind of a taste of what that grift was. We had Dojo Kun on, who's a fraud investigator who's looking into the case and has done a lot of legwork on his own time trying to uncover this mess that just keeps getting messier and messier. So
Shout out to Brian.
But on the other hand, it does give us a chance to bring you 9 great books. 9 plus, there's more than 9 great IPs, because one of the books is an anthology title that's got like 5 or 6 short stories in it called Revolt. And we were able to bring these books to you at a great cost, $25 for all 9, all shipped in a Gemini mailer right straight to you. And these books are already done and printed. I just looked at them again today. It's sitting in their warehouse, just ready to go.
Yeah, so ready to go. That's good.
All high quality,
high quality with high quality creators. Yeah,
agreed, Mike. Absolutely.
It's such a variety of stuff because we thought we were going to be printing books for the masses, for somebody who's walking in the mall, sees the book, has to buy the book. That's really what these books were made for.
Right. Yeah.
So, and retailers also, we do have retailer levels available if you want to carry those books in your shop. Just get a hold of us and we can make arrangements.
You make it happen.
We can definitely make it happen.
It's all gravy, baby.
And then the Fellowship of the Indies book, I believe there's going to be a PDF version of the books that were meant for month 2, because we were in high production on all of these titles. So plus there's a few other titles, one of which C Michael did, that will be included in the month 2 books. That is a pride and joy of mine. It's a product I'm especially happy with that I got to write, that nobody's seen yet except for a few select people. And I can't wait for folks to get a hold of it and read it. It's a very high fantasy tale.
Didn't your wife see it, Randy?
Yeah, my wife says I have to finish the story now because she says it's the best thing I've ever written. It's the story of a young cat that discovers magic, and the world that realizes the world that she's in is vast, a lot bigger than what she originally thought. She runs across a female centaur warrior, a elf that likes to collect things, and a
kleptomaniac,
a little barbarian fairy character who's a little overly masculine.
Yeah,
that
just a little.
And then the group of them end up falling off the edge of the world. It's a lot of fun. It's a great
fun.
Great story.
Yeah, we're wholesome. We're wholesome in here, Mike, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So Shawn Hainsworth, tell us where we can find you, man. Let us.
Yeah, Shawn.
Yeah. So Woodstake is on Zoop. I am on Shawn Hainsworth Productions or shpcomics.com. You can see all the titles. I've got the Killing Machine in the store. And I'm on Facebook, Shawn Hainsworth Productions. There's a Facebook page for Woodstake. There's a Facebook page for The Killing Machine. So I'm easy to find.
Excellent.
Sweet.
Easy to find. We love it.
Mitch Rogers, other than Celtic Comics, where can we find you, man?
Well, you can find my web comics, which is basically where I first run all my stuff at topass.io/series/theboger. I have all my contact info written up here, so I can
Make sure
remember.
You put it in the private chat over here, and then
All
my
right.
wife will put it into the, my producer will put it into the links of the show.
Our director/producer.
Right.
Boss. Yeah, buddy.
And
You better listen.
globalcomics.com/a/Celtic Cross Studios. And also on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is Mitch Rogers. I just created a new account. So if you look for my old one, so if you're looking for my old one, that's not around anymore. I had to make a new one. And on Instagram, I'm Mitch Rogers 1986.
Look, 86.
Yeah.
Best year to be born in, man. Best year to be born in.
That's my big sister's birth year. That's 86. Yeah. So I see you. Mitch.
So you were born after 86?
Yeah, it's 87.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we're like 13 months apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it January 86? That was February 87. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that's typical with homeschool kids.
Is that typical? Yeah.
My oldest daughter's
especially
2 years, and after that, one right after the other.
It's just sequential. It's like sequential art. It just keeps on going. You know,
Every panel. It's a new adventure.
Every panel.
Grandmaster Zim, tell us where we can find you, sir.
Grandmaster.
You can find me over on Facebook under Randy Zimmerman. That'd be the best place to look. I'm on Twitter too, and the Arrow Comics is all over the place, has a link tree and everywhere else. But really, Facebook is where, if you want to reach me directly, that's the way to go. Tomorrow night, we'll be having the Zimcast. That's a show I get to run. It happens every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about comics, popular media, and we give our opinions a little bit freer than what you'll see here. Sometimes it's rather pointed. We have a nice warning right at the start. And Stone will be there tomorrow. C Michael will be there tomorrow. We'll have a special guest. Christy Shin will be showing up to talk about her projects and one or two more surprises, depending upon whether or not Scott Rosema can get his internet up and working, which has been a problem. And that and his alarm clock for Sunday Funnies. On Sunday morning, I run another show. Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We run the Sunday Funnies, where we talk about the fun and the whimsical side of comics. We talk about the passion that we love. It's always a fun, spirited discussion that who knows where it's going to wander to. With the last episode that we had, if you haven't seen last Sunday's episode, do take a second to go out, or do take a couple hours off and go listen to it. It was literally old farts talking comics. We had Glenn Fleming on there. We had Roland Mann from Silverline Comics was on there. Scott Rosema did not get up for that show, though he was invited and had a link. Did not wake up in time for that show, Scott.
Scott, calling you out.
I'm pointing at you. And we had a few other guests. John Celestri was on there. The great the animator John Celestri was on there as well. It's great folks. It was a great conversation. Hope you get a chance to go over and listen. Also, over on the Raging 2 Network, we have a playlist that we've started for classic Sunday Funny shows with those interviews that we really love, that we really want you to watch and enjoy, because we've had some great Sunday Funnies episodes. The first one that was up there was an interview with Ralph Griffith and Stuart Kerr, with the founders of Arrow Comics from the mid 80s. The second interview that's up there now is Dan Fogel, who's an underground expert, does the Fogel's Guide for Underground Comics. There's another episode coming up soon where we had a great discussion with Trina Robbins that you don't want to miss. Other than that, I'll be back here next Tuesday for more dispatches from outside the box.
All right.
But definitely the Zimcast. And soon, hopefully soon, we'll have a sign-up page for the graphic novel I'm currently working on about my COVID experience. So you don't want to miss that. There's a lot of information in that as well.
All right, Stone. Where can we find you, sir?
Well, at first I tried to find myself because I'm like when I
He's a lost soul.
I'm a man. I wake up in the morning, I'm just like, what the hell?
Wandering
and then I'm
the
like,
vast plains.
Man, I go out and then the neighbor's like, you don't have any pants. I'm like, am I at home or am I not at home?
He runs into that problem way too often, according to the local police.
to law enforcement. But anyway, guys, you can find me journeyoftheshadow.com. Just pop it in Google or Bing. Shout out Bill Gates. We've got, what is this thing happening? Darkness Falls is this really thick novel that I decided to rewrite and did a Kickstarter for. It's literally that big. It's probably gonna be over 600 pages, according to the editor. And that's dropping May of this. So next month we're in April, guys. Holy smokes,
we are.
So yeah, that's dropping. We just got some new products and some 11x17 prints of what you see at the top here. So the goddesses within the story, we just got 11x17 and 5x7 prints. So you guys check that out. You can find me Instagram, Journey of the Shadow. I'll be unbanned from Facebook in 3 days.
Any day now. Any day, because I was posting a lot of titties. So, hey, I'm not going to learn my lesson. As soon as I'm unbanned, I'm going to be posting them again. So find me facebook.com/Journey of the Shadow. And send me a DM, or send me an email, journeyoftheshadow@gmail.com. Thanks for your support and your attention. Don't send him a direct message. Don't send him a dungeon master.
Yeah, don't, please. And don't. If you send me a dungeon master, I'm calling the cops.
I'm old school. I'm Dungeons and Dragons. You say DM to me, that does not stand for direct message.
That doesn't. Yeah, that's not direct.
Yeah, no, yeah. Well, we've got a show about that coming up pretty soon too.
Oh
so.
boy.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
So we're going to be talking about role playing, not that kind. Anyway.
Not that kind, kids. Just see. Where can you find you, see?
Of course, you can find me over at my link tree. Links to my Facebook, my Twitter, my portfolio, all the good stuff and everything. And of course, I think I still need to put dispatches on there. You can find me again where everybody else said you could find me. Find me right here next Tuesday, where we get to talk about steampunk with our guests Matt Knowles and Steph Cannon. So that should be an interesting the future of yesterday, and also
the future of yesterday. That's good.
Of yesterday.
I like that.
So let's throw this up here now. Make sure not only like Randy said, he has his shows. We got a few shows. Check them out. We have a new show, and that's what I'm going to leave out on tonight. We have a new show starting Saturday with our buddy Mike, Jimmy, and Mar V. You want to check that out, and that will be our quote for the week. So, with that, everybody say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Buy independent and alternative comics, especially ours.
Yep.
Yeah. Do it down, damn it.
Good night.
Over.